I don't know why, they're saying exactly being honest. Yes.
So I'd like to welcome everybody to our city council meeting tonight. It is now 6:08 PM on Tuesday, September 26th. My name is Quinn Soderquist. Mayor Westbrook is out of town and I'm the mayor pro tem. And he's asked me to chair this meeting tonight. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Halverson, and then I'll offer the opening prayer.
And good afternoon. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful to gather this evening for the opportunity to discuss some items before us. We're grateful for the good people of this community. Grateful for all the people who have put time and effort into trying to keep us safe and keep this city moving forward in a proper and good manner. We ask for the guidance tonight and things that we discuss that we'll be able to understand one another and be able to see the proper way to move forward. We ask for continued blessing to be with our firefighters and police and other service people that are taking care of us. We also are grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. And now we pray for that guidance again this evening and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. So we apologize for the delay with the technical difficulties, but we will open now for public comment. Please note that we have two public hearings taking place tonight on disposition of surplus property. So if you are here to comment on one of those items, you can comment now, or you can wait until the public hearing and comment at that time. When you are offering public comment, we ask that you please respectfully follow the guidelines that we have. Individuals may speak once for 3 minutes or less, and please do not remark and yell out comments from the audience. State your name and city and direct your comments to the entire city council. Please be aware that we will not respond to you during the public comment. So we open it now for public comment. No general public. Oh, we have one. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ashley Went. I live at 129 Harper Way in South Beaver. I'm here tonight for my husband and myself regarding the 5.33 acres of surplus property behind our house at 104 East South Beaver Drive. I also have the other 4 of my neighbors and a few others here as well regarding the property behind our houses. First of all, I wanted to apologize for my husband not being here tonight. Besides his day job at the law firm, he is also a professor at Beaver State and teaches class in person on Tuesday night. Also, I'm going to apologize. I might have to step out. I am supposed to be in an MBA class on Tuesday night that I'm supposed to attend. I just wanted to say a quick word regarding the property. As many of you know or have recently been made aware, a few years ago when the city purchased the property for the soccer complex, I heard in the city notes that the city may not need the entire property. At that time, I sent an email and met with the previous mayor and city manager regarding our and other city residents on our streets' desire and interest to buy the property if it were to become available. Over the past few years, myself and others have followed up with Dave Larson, the city manager, regarding this. We were continually told that they were waiting on development plans and what the city would need for the city facilities project. I sent an email regarding the sale of the surplus property a few weeks ago after I was shocked to see it was sold and what I and others felt like was out from under us. I do appreciate that at the time you put off the sale and followed the correct procedure in notifying the homeowners around the property before approving the sale to General RV. Since that time, my husband and I have met with the city manager, the mayor, and the city attorney regarding the property. At that meeting, we were basically told that the city wants to and is pretty much decided on selling the property behind our house to General RV. Dave Larson did mention discussing with General RV the possibility of selling some of the property to us, but then replied back a few days later that that was not an option in General RV's eyes. I understand General RV not wanting us to have some of the property, since of course they would want the entire property. Ultimately, though, that decision is in your hands, not General RV's. I would like to appeal to you to sell us the property as city residents and not an outside company. I know in many other property disputes within the city regarding selling land and developing of the land, the council members or the planning commission would say, well, if you have a problem with what we're putting on or developing the property, then you should buy the property yourself. Well, I would just like to appeal to you that in this case, we have wanted to, we have tried to, and we feel we still have not been given a fair chance to. It is frustrating for us to hear that this was not done under the table or behind our backs, and that General RV needs this property behind our house when they clearly already purchased the property off of 475 to put their dealership. Being that the property was not declared surplus at the time, or even for sale, someone from the city would have had to make that known to them. At this point, I have to be honest, it feels like this is a backdoor under table discussion and negotiation that they would be sold the property as well. I feel like as city council members that represent the city residents, you would want to retain the property first city residents as opposed to an outside company. I know at this point, the thought will be that General RV supposedly needs this property and somehow that this would be more beneficial to the city, but an RV overflow lot, in my opinion, could be put anywhere in our city or in an adjoining city on a piece of property. I do not see how having RVs sit behind our property versus elsewhere or even in Salt Lake is going to affect their sale at the larger lot around the corner. I would appeal to you that the 5 adjacent homeowners behind the property would like to and are ready and willing to purchase the property. If a portion of it sounds like a headache to you and we need to come together and purchase all 5.33 acres to make it easier, then we are willing to do that as well. We've asked the city how to put in an official offer and have not even been given that option. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can see why we feel like keeping this property in city resident hands and not a corporation is better for everyone.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
Are there any other comments at this time? Okay, we'll move to close the public comment and move forward with our agenda. The first item that we have is the public hearing for the proposed disposition of surplus property at approximately 1075 East Lester Drive. I have asked, since there are a lot of items with this, our city manager, Dave Larson, to give some background on why this particular item is before us tonight. So Dave, you'll do that.
Yeah, thank you. My hope is to provide just a little bit of background and then explanation of how these 5 items relate to each other, how the council has to take separate action for each of them, and yet how they are, like I said, interrelated. For the Catholic Cove Phase 1 development, as you see on the agenda, the first item is a public hearing. The council wants to hear from everybody related to the potential declaration of property as surplus. The second item would be to officially declare that. The third item then gets into the development related specifics of this project, which includes a rezone from its current zoning to the RM zone, which is consistent with the general plan. The next item is a development agreement related to how the city's property is involved in the subdivision and the timing of that development. And then the last item for consideration is the final plat, which has been recommended by the Planning Commission. So a little bit additional background is that the city's general plan, specifically the Transportation Master Plan, has identified the needed connection between Lester Drive and 7375 for many years. It has been kind of a question mark, though, of how and when that would ever be accomplished. The city made a decision a long time ago, as I understand it, that they did not want to use eminent domain to obtain that right of way, knowing that that would include the cost for the land on top of construction costs for the road and underlying infrastructure. The city ended up purchasing some property right there on Lester Drive in early 2018 that included a sliver of that potential future right of way. Of course, the city recognizes, well, let me say this, the property, the city owned property and why it might be included in the development is that if the city is able to obtain the right of way with all the improvements made and not have to use eminent domain, there's less cost to the city for that. And of course, the city recognizes the need to widen 7375 and 925 east once the connection is made, knowing that the current width of those roads. And the council's discussed making that a budget priority for fiscal year 24 to complete that just as soon
Dave?
as we can. Can you
Sorry,
hear
let
me?
me interrupt you. The video is not able to come over. Would you mind coming up front so people can
Well, she
see?
can switch. it
Oh.
over. She can, that's why I was just trying to
Okay.
get Lisa's attention.
All right, you can stay there then if she's.
Lisa's doing double
If
duty.
it's on, if we can have the camera on you, you're fine there. I just don't know if the camera was working or
Can
not.
you Flip it over. Yes, please.
Yeah, because he's talking right now.
Yeah, she's doing double duty tonight.
Yeah, apologize for that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. The last thing that I would say is that there is construction that's already been happening in the area for. I'll just come up there.
Yeah,
You're okay. He'll go right.
The last thing that I would say is that you've probably seen home construction in the area already for the Go-On property. That of course allows for the road to go through, but that action for them getting a building permit and replacing that home can happen regardless of the decision tonight. So they were able to build a second home knowing that they're demolishing the old home regardless of any subdivision decisions. Brandon and I are here to answer any questions about the consideration.
thank you, Dave. Okay, so I look for a motion to open the public hearing for the proposed disposition of surplus property at approximately 1075 East Lester Drive.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll now open the public hearing.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Thanks for keeping me on track. Okay, we now open it up for public comment in the public hearing associated with the surplus property at 1075 East Lester Drive. Again, just a reminder, we invite you to speak for 3 minutes or less. State your name and city and direct your comments to the council.
Is this for the final approval for the sale of the property?
This is on 1075 East, not down by the, yeah, we have two going tonight.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. So are there any comments? If not, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. We have to vote on that one too. Say aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Let Mayor know that he left at a good time or a bad time. Anyway, we love Mayor. He's doing a great job. He's actually out doing mayor duties, so. Okay, are there any overall comments or discussion from the council you want to talk about this overall things before we get into each specific item?
I just have questions on the specific items, I think.
Yeah, mine is on the development itself. I don't know if we want to wait for that one or just throw it all out since the next few resolutions are all about it.
Yeah, they build on each other, so if you want to talk the whole thing or wait.
Okay, I'll just ask, I just had a question, and I don't know, Dave or Jamie, this might be one for you. I apologize, I didn't get to you beforehand. I was just reviewing the law that a resident wrote in about regarding the residential streets. Initially, I thought that it was the new law that was passed with the width of the street. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is that that would apply to this new development, correct?
it would apply, but not in the way the person who made that comment suggests. So the state land use law was amended this last year. One of the amendments in the state land use law related to exactions. Exactions are requirements the city can impose on developers to provide for the infrastructure that results from the development. So one of the things you often will ask the developer to provide are streets. And the law was changed such that there were certain categories of streets defined, and then for those categories of streets, maximum widths the city could demand of a developer. And so they were pointing to that section that related to those maximum widths, and then making the argument that this street could not be converted to the type of street or serve the areas it would serve because it's not a wide enough width for that purpose. The law they pointed to really doesn't indicate what is or isn't a sufficient width. It just indicates the maximum width that you can require a developer to provide.
Okay, so curiosity is, I'm just wondering, so I know that the legislature passed a bill that required different widths of what we had just passed prior to them doing that for us. I just don't remember what the new minimum width is that was passed by the state.
It varies by street type. I think Brandon will know kind of what the categories are and what the width is.
Yeah, I'm just wondering for this particular, because Lester is a 70-foot right away, right?
It is.
And so what will we be going to now that the state gets to tell us what to do?
Well, the new law talks about 32 feet
Of pavement or
of
right away?
pavement,
Okay,
and this is providing 36.
okay,
But that was part of the development agreement that's already been agreed to. So
okay.
as long as the developer and the city are on the same page, then the law, the law is not going to supersede what the developer and the city can agree to in a
Okay,
development
so
agreement.
essentially what you're saying is the development agreement is allowing us to do a wider street than the minimum that the state now requires us, correct?
That's fair, yes. And
And then-
you can negotiate wider. You just, if you were to force the developer to provide the road and you didn't have agreement, you could only go up to the 32-foot width.
Gotcha. And then regarding this HB 406 that we got from the resident, I just was looking at the law itself. So that one seems to be talking more about annexation and things. It did have something in there about development agreements, but it didn't seem to apply to this situation.
HB 406 was a really broad piece of legislation. It was I just call it the omnibus land use bill. And so there are a number of different things in there that amended the land use statute. One of those changes was the road width change we've just been talking about, but there were many other things included in that bill.
Okay, thank you.
Any other overall discussion? Excuse me. So I still have an issue, I guess, with, and I know it's just a small chunk of land. I think it was referred to as a sliver of land. I just don't see any reason that the city would be giving land away to a developer for a road. Now, I do understand that we want to have a larger road, and that's why we're doing a development agreement on it. But I personally don't see a need for the road, so I don't see the need for us to donate land to a developer. Can you explain how we get to that point?
I'd like to take a stab at that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because I felt the exact same way, Joel. I had some heartburn over this about why are we giving this away? This land was purchased before we were sworn in,
Mm.
and we were trying to decide, what do we do with this? It's a good long-term plan, but how do we actually put this into fruition? There is definitely a need, though, for a second egress. If you ever go down during school hours, you really need another exit from the school. So I do see the need for it. The cost or the value of the land, rather, is going to be a great return on our investment, because what the developer has to put in on behalf of the city exceeds that.
What do you mean by that?
The developer has to put in the road, all of the improvements, the infrastructure and everything. And our last discussion, that was well over $1 million.
But the developers always have to do that.
Well,
They
but,
always have to put it.
but they wouldn't have put it in on this piece of property to make that connection. the whole point, sorry, Angie. I
No,
didn't do
that's
that.
fine. That's
So
fine.
the whole point, so, and again, Angie and I were sworn in at the same time.
Yeah.
And this was bought. And then we were trying to discuss on this is back in December of 17. We were trying to decide, how do we make this connection? Everybody was wanting an east-west connection. We were trying to figure it out. We couldn't get the road to go straight. But then we couldn't afford to tear down someone's home. We didn't want to use eminent domain. We couldn't figure out how to pay for it. We didn't have the money to do it. And and it's been going on, trying to find a way to get that road to go through since 2018, 17. And long before that, there's people here in the room that were part of that 4-year process, even to purchase the property. And so I felt like it was like, what do we do now? The city spent a bunch of money on a piece of property to get this road through, but we don't have the money to put, it was like $1.7 million at the time, if I remember right, to put this road in. Plus we had homeowners that it would be displacing. And so the developer came to us with the proposal of saying, here, we can figure out how to make this work. We looked at it 10 different ways with other developers. None of them were in this kind of favor for the city, none of them. So I don't know if that gets you all the way to where we were at, but, and it, people, it's may have been a comment of saying, hey, this has been behind closed doors too and things. Well, this has been in the public eye. Mr. Cap presented this in a public meeting several times. It's been in many open discussions as part of our discussion items, trying to figure out how to make this work. And so even back when I ran the first time as going through this process, the majority of the public were saying, forget north-south connections, get east-west connections. And this is one of our biggest stumbling blocks in the city. We saw that when South Weaver Drive was shut down earlier this summer. There was no way to get past going that way. And we have 2 choke points, and that's one of them.
Okay. See, that makes a little more sense. I mean, I understand the school issue, but we've got 3 roads coming into there. And I have a spouse who works for the schools, and I can tell you, a lot of them don't have that, and most of them even only have 1 road that it dedicates into and then loops around. So I think it would be best to have that connection, more than just South Weaver Drive. So that does make sense. I guess I'm just hoping that the value of giving away land, instead of, if you wanted to do it, even have a small amount like we've talked about when somebody else wants just a small piece of property, that it should still be paid for instead of just given. But
You bring up a good point.
It does.
I think, and again, I think we've all had to wrestle with this to a degree. But I think when you consider that if the city were to keep this land in our name, we would have to do all these things that the developer is doing. It's landlocked essentially. Which we don't have the money to do. But you also have to remember that this isn't the same case as other residents purchasing a piece of property, because they take ownership of that property and it becomes their private property. This is going to be a public road. So it's not necessarily we're giving him land to build a home on, we're giving him land so he can create a connection for us that we on our own cannot build. And so without that piece of it, if the road were to go a different way, that piece of property, there's nothing to do with it. There's nothing that we can put on it. There's nothing that can happen with it. We just essentially lost it in the sense of that. So this is, I think, for me, what came back around is this is really the only way for that property to actually end up benefiting the residents. Otherwise, it just sits empty. It does nothing for anybody.
well, and we could make a park out of it, but. I'm just
But
kidding.
and
I'm just kidding.
the other main
Um,
point was that was the intent of buying it.
Yeah.
And we've already spent that money to make, that was that discussion, and maybe Wayne can correct me if I'm wrong. But that was the discussion of all around why that was purchased, was to make this connection.
So looking at the map, the plat, you're saying that we could not require a developer to put a road through that is on our general plan, and that he would not have to just go on and use a different lot, one of his that he wants to sell,
to put that road through that is on our general plan?
Well, the road goes straight through a person's home.
Right, and he's already agreed to that part. He sold that to the developer. So,
So he's following the road as it is on our general plan, because they don't line up, they're not.
yeah, there's that little S thing. So, Brandon, there's not an extra lot. There's not 10 lots versus 11 if we weren't to sell this.
Well, the property does, part of it is the road, but there is additional property that is being used for a lot, or exactly where the line is, I'm not sure, but I think the idea is that if the city were to sell the properties and get the amount of money that we could out of that, we could not take that same amount of money and go build this road connection.
Right, but we don't build roads for developers.
Well, this is a life safety issue at its core.
How?
Second egress to the school.
Well, it has to.
It doesn't.
It doesn't
It's
to
at
the
one
west.
corner of the school. So if you were to block off that road right there on the northeast part of it, there's no way to get out.
I believe that's on the Horrock study
Yeah.
that we've all seen that says that's one of our number one priorities as far as life safety.
Right. The idea is to get the road connection. And this is the most affordable way to do it. Thus reducing, potential tax dollars going towards something that's much more expensive than it has to be. So the fact that a developer is potentially helping that situation. I guess whether or not that is a concern for you, but we're getting the road connection for a lot better price than the value of the property.
I feel like as you dig into it, you see, like, to me, I should say, I feel like, we're the stewards of our residents' money. This property belongs to the residents, and the whole purpose, like Blair said, to get it was for that connection. That was the only reason it was purchased, was to make a connection to Lester Drive. So we are trying in good faith to make that happen as best as possible and at the best value for our residents. And this is one of the only way to make it happen. We don't have the money to make it happen otherwise. So what, like Brandon said, our return for this is far greater than what we could do. It's not just allowing a developer to create a development, it's actually allowing that connection. And that was the whole purpose of it.
And I'm not saying that the developer isn't going to make money on it. I mean, that's why they're in business. But I know we don't have the funds to make this road happen. So if we want the road to happen, that's how it happens.
Joel, I think if I understand correctly, one of the fundamental questions is, in other instances, cities wait for developers to build roads and gift them to the city.
Yep.
So why are we not doing that here?
Especially ones that are on the general plan.
Sure. And if I may, to the idea that there's money to be made, right? That's kind of the driving engine for developers, that they do it so there's some type of a return. My understanding of previous conversations with others, and the idea that the city is locked because we don't have the ability to pay for that and just go in and build this connection
Right.
ourselves.
And I agree with that.
Most developers probably are not even interested in doing that as well. There's no return for them. But in this case, if I remember right, and I don't want to put words into Lane's mouth, but if I remember from some of those first presentations, the discussion was, if that property becomes part of the equation, then it unlocks the numbers for them so that they can make it work. Without that, if we force them to buy it from us and then use it for the development, that it doesn't make sense financially for them, and it remains as is. And so,
Yeah, and I honestly don't believe that at all, but it sounds to me that exactly what I thought was going is, yes, there's definitely a valid reason for the road. I agree with that. And if the whole purpose behind it was to get it done quicker. I can understand why the council voted that way. So that we could get that road, so that we could get the second egress. I don't still believe that if we told somebody who wanted to develop it, that they would have to spend, $3-4 grand to buy that little piece of property from us, or however much the market value is for a landlocked city property in an undeveloped area.
Considerably more than that.
Yes. Yeah,
We paid considerably
That doesn't
more.
even sound better, because the only thing I saw on the map was just the part of the road that was,
But that's what
being
makes
taken
it
out.
financially.
It's
available.
not just a sliver. It is,
It's 1.82.
It's over an acre.
It's full.
it's 1.82 acres.
Can I speak for Lane?
Lane's online. You can,
He's not able, he's texting me.
Oh.
Well, you're part of the development. You can.
yes,
speak.
Nate. Allow Nate
Hey,
Reed
guys,
to-
can you hear me?
represent
This is
developer.
Lane.
Okay, Nate Reed, Reed Associates, we're the engineers, planners on the project. We have been involved with this project from the beginning. Development of Easton Village, which is on the grounds west of the elementary school. Like has been discussed, this has always been the plan. We need that Lester Road connectivity. Also being a resident of the city, talking to Mayor Sholom, previous Mayor Sholom about this. If we all remember, because we all got probably messages on our phone when the city was on fire, along with we went to elementary school, saying, come get your kids now. It was absolute chaos. I remember I worked in Riverdale, driving down here, and I could not, it took me 35 minutes to get to a place that I could pick my kids up. So it was that incident, working with Mayor Sherman. He purchased the property. So it needs to go through. I don't think there's really any discussion or disagreement on that. So how we work through this process with Lane, that estimates for the staff on this. Certainly does the city own property have a value? It does. But also the cost of a roadway is about $450 a linear foot.
Oh, yeah, girl.
So by the time you take the cost of the road, it's bad, you know. The
They're
cost of the
here.
road compared to the 1.8 acres, the developer is still behind $180,000. By the cost of the road, the lots, the benefit of this. So you may say, well, why would Lane, why would a developer do this? And it is, he's a resident, he's got family across the street, he sees the need, and it opens up this corridor that is needed in the city. Again, we've had many of our clientele come and look at this piece of property, because they also knew about the Lester Street bottleneck, and it does free up a few lots, but none of them could get a pencil. And I think Lane, because of, and the whole Cat family, it is their interaction and their tie to the community is really why we're here. Because other developers look at this and just could not get it a pencil.
So you're saying at land prices today, you guys aren't gonna make hardly butt kits on this?
So you take the cost, what the 180 or 1.8 acres. If you take the cost of the roadway on the city property compared to the lots that he is getting on the city property, he is behind about $180,000.
How about for the whole project that he can do?
Yes, he is making some money, but he also has to.
No, it's not.
The long relocation home, there's a lot into this. So my understanding is very close to break even. But on the city only piece, it is a loss.
Well, I can understand that part.
Can you guys
I
hear
think
me?
I'm just beating a dead horse here. I do appreciate the council giving me the history of it and definitely some of the ideas behind it. I think you had me until I found out it was a whole acre. Not a sliver, but Thank you for answering my questions.
No problem.
Thank you.
I think it's kind of a win-win situation. And that's the best way to make a decision, in my opinion. Any other discussions, General?
Sorry, Brandon, I
Yep.
just had one more follow-up question.
Okay.
So can you give me the right of way of what 7375 will be? The pavement was 36, correct?
Yes.
And
So
what's
the
the
idea,
right of way?
it would remain at, I believe it's 60.
60. Okay, and then if we put 925 as the priority for 2024, what would we be looking at for that, given the state regulations?
Well, the idea would be that, I mean, this whole road system, 925, 73, 75 to Lester, the idea would be leave it all at 36. But the
Okay.
right of way widths change a little bit, which just means that park strips, sidewalks, the widths of those change as you go.
I was just wondering if 925 would be considered grandfathered because it's actually an expansion of a road rather than a
Well,
new road.
Keep in mind that the law does not preclude the city from
Who's-
doing whatever widths we want to do.
Oh, so I've been pissed at the state for no reason?
Well, it just means.
No,
that
you can always
the-
be angry
Oh,
at the
I
state.
am, I'm
Okay,
mad
all
at
right.
the state, but anyway, keep going.
What it means is that you can't require a developer, if there are no other extenuating circumstances that the law allows for. You can't require a developer to give you 36 feet of pavement
Okay, I
versus the
see.
32.
I gotcha.
Or we
But
can,
if you-
or we can also pay for the upgraded if we
Mhm.
want,
Right, but-
which we've done on several.
But 73, 75, 925, those are completely not, they don't apply to the law.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so 60 feet on 73, 75 total right away, 36 of that is pavement, and then at least 36 on 975. Is it 975 or 25?
925 actually would be 35 feet.
35 feet of pavement with,
Yes,
and the right of way, do we know what it will be?
it's
or will-
50.
It's 50.
So if you're
It's
familiar
currently
with
50.
1250 East,
Yeah.
Uh-huh,
it would be exactly
would be
that
1250
same kind of
East.
cross section.
Okay. thank you. Really bad at numbers.
One more question, Brandon. Remind me, were there residents on either 925 or 7375 that already put in that paid in lieu of sidewalk and curb and
Yes,
gutter?
yes,
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
on
Thank
both
you.
of those streets, there is some money that has already been paid towards that.
Okay, thank you.
And I know that we talked about making that a priority for 925. Did we financially figure that out yet? As far as bumping that to up the priority for 2024?
Well, it's absolutely at the top of the list as far as road projects for next year. But it's a matter of funding, like you say, and so there are some different pots of money that can be pulled from, some payments in lieu already, as well as, Class C and whatnot. As far as saying we figured that out, that will be part of the budget process of saying that's priority number one for street projects. How much money do we have and where does that come from?
You two out there, figure it out. I mean it, figure it out.
Okay, let's move into resolution 2340. Declaring city-owned real property at 1070 East Lester Drive as surplus.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution 23-40, declaring city-owned real property at 1075 East Lister Drive as surplus.
Seconded.
Okay. Let's have a roll call vote. Roll call vote, starting with Councilman Hamilton.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Nay.
We have four and one against. Moving to item 6, ordinance 2023-13, the Castle Cove Phase 1 rezone from agriculture to residential moderate. Or agricultural and residential moderate to residential moderates. Any discussion on this topic?
No, it falls in the general plan.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem. I move to approve ordinance 2023-13 Castle Cove Phase 1 rezone.
I second it.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Dills.
Aye.
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 Okay, passes. Okay. We move to resolution 23-41, the development agreement for Castle Cove Phase 1. And discussion on the development agreement.
The only question I have, and maybe, I mean, reading it, I think it covers this, but in item 8, we talked about originally in another city council meeting that this would not be deeded over until all of the infrastructure was put in and the road was complete. Does item 8 cover us on that?
Yes,
Okay,
there's a bunch of sub bullets that give
that kind of,
The
just
exact
to make
order
sure all that's in
how
before,
it's to happen, yes.
I mean, it puts Castle Rock or Castle Cove going at risk, but we just want to make sure those are done.
Yes,
Essentially, the city is allowing them to build the road on the property
Exactly.
that we own before it's deeded.
Beat it over.
yes.
Mhm.
So the road's actually built before they get the grant.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other discussion on the development agreement? Okay, and I'll look for a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve resolution 23-41, development agreement for Castle Cove Phase 1.
Seconded.
Take a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Nay. Okay, vote is 4-1. Okay, we'll move to resolution 2343. Or excuse me, 2342, the final plat for Castle Cove Phase 1 at 1050 East Lester Drive. Comments or discussion on this?
My only comment is I really appreciate city staff putting this packet together and being so thorough. So everyone on the council and all of our residents can see all the steps that have been taken and everything that has happened up to this point. All the boxes are checked. So that's my only discussion on that.
And I second that.
Thanks, Joel.
Well, Summer's not here to hear you say that, but sure we'll let him know.
Thanks.
I just have a question. Sorry, I'm counting. 11, because they're numbered. There's 11 lots in this plat. In this part of subdivision. So the second part of the subdivision will come up in a different plat. Is that typical?
The second part.
You got plat 1, plat 2.
I can explain that.
Instead of, I guess what my question is why is there 2 plats instead of 1 plat in phase 1, phase 2?
Because they really are completely different subdivisions. So the fact that one says phase 1 and one says phase 2.
Because one is, let's see, south of the.
Yeah,
elementary school.
southeast.
Southeast off of South Bench.
Yeah,
Drive.
kind of south of the elementary school, south and west a little bit.
How many lots are going in that one?
That is the next item, and there are
Oh,
13.
Yeah, 13.
okay, so we're looking at like 24 total lots for,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it that way, because it says phase 1 and phase 2, but
Yeah.
they really are, they could be named completely separate.
okay.
So the only concern or question I have on this one is, I know we talked a lot about this during the discussion of the plats and things, and there was concern about the curve rather than a 90-degree being a safety concern. People tend to go faster when they don't have to stop at a 90-degree. I don't know if Nate, you want to comment, or the city, how do we make sure that there's a good control of the speed limit? People going through there. You've got kids walking to school, you've got residents. Had it been a 90, it would have automatically forced people to stop.
Well, there's always kind of a double-edged sword with the purpose of the road and then other safety concerns. This street is intended to be more of a collector for that purpose. As it funnels everybody in and out to South Weaver Drive. I guess I don't view, personally, I don't view this connection any different than the rest of Lester Drive to the east, which is a straight shot. So I guess I would just suggest that it would be controlled the same way any other street is controlled as far as speed goes, that it would, you know, law enforcement would be there to write tickets for any speeding. I don't think the design is unsafe in any way.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mayor Pro Tem, I recommend, gosh, threw me off. I move to approve resolution 23-42, final plat for Castle Cove Phase 1 at 1050 East Lester Drive.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll start roll call vote with Councilman Dills.
Aye.
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 Resolution passes. Item 9, resolution 2343, final plat for Castle Cove Phase 2 at 7550 South, 1160 East. Comments or discussion on this? If none, then I look for a motion. Or do you want to look at it? Pull it up first.
Give me one
Got it?
second. Good.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a. What is it?
Motion.
I make a motion. To approve resolution 23-43, final plat for Castle Cove Phase 2 at 7550 South, 1160 East.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote for Councilwoman Halverson.
Aye.
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 And resolution 2343 passes. Thank you very much for all the hard work on that effort to the staff and everybody else who's been a part of it. We appreciate all the discussion and feedback that we've received. Thank you. We'll now move into our public hearing for the proposed disposition of surplus property at approximately 104 East South Weaver Drive. This is the property.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thank you for those that are coming. This is the property at the west end of the city. And we will open it up, as I mentioned, for public hearing in a moment. Before we do that, though, I again asked Dave Larson to give us a little bit of background. Excuse me. On why this is before us. And you'll do so, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's important to note on this that, as Ashley said, I appreciate her comments that this went before the city council in August. And we brought the staff attention that there was a noticeable mistake and an error in the discrepancy between state law and city code. City code requires a mailing to all of the property owners within 300 feet. And state code does not require that. And we follow state code pretty much exclusively, and so that discrepancy was missed. And once it was brought to our attention, we recognized the need to go through these steps again. Those actions previously need to be repeated and considered anew. And so because of that, we'll have these 3 items similar to the last one in terms of a public hearing before officially making a decision to declare property surplus, then offer to purchase that the council has before them.
Thank you, Dave. So again, we'd like to open the public hearing for this proposal of surplus property. Roll call vote, or no, it's just
No.
everybody in favor?
Mayor.
Or it
Mayor
has to be a
Pro-
motion. Okay.
I make a motion to open public hearing for proposed disposition of surplus property.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thanks for bearing with me.
You're good.
You're doing great.
All right, the public hearing is now open for the disposition of surplus property at approximately 104 East South Weaver Drive. Again, as you come up, please state your name and the city. Speak once for 3 minutes or less, and realize we will not respond to you directly during your comments. Are there any new comments at this time?
My name is Robin Ernstler. I'm a homeowner on Harbor Way. And I am not a public speaker or business or law person, so I don't know all your formal ways of doing everything. But basically, I wanted to thank Thaddeus and Ashley Went because they do have legal and business knowledge. And I appreciate their efforts on our neighborhood's behalf. I'm not sure exactly how formally you do all this, then you had to speak before it, so that's why I'm speaking, even though I'm not sure what exactly you're gonna say in a minute. The thing I wanted to say is that I just see that there's an offer. And it doesn't say who that offer is, but I know that Thaddeus and Ashley Wynn tried to make an offer on our neighborhood's behalf, and they weren't really given the right to make an official offer. So I'm just questioning that you're getting one offer, and I'm assuming that's not from our neighborhood. And just that the new people that are coming on board to the council are aware of that, and everyone else is aware of that, that we definitely, as homeowners in South Weaver, we're interested in purchasing the property behind our house and houses, and are hoping that that is done properly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Hey, Robin.
Are there any other comments?
Hi, Trevor Skank, 6455 Raymond Drive. I was not aware that the sell the property was at the point it is at this point. I'm strongly behind the Wentz and behind the city too. You want to get the best bang for your buck, and why it would be opened up to a broader spectrum of purchase or offer. Yeah, I don't quite understand that. The part that's kind of troubling to me is apparently the company that wants to purchase this property has already been in discussion with the city on what kind of zoning they will need. And it's went forward that way, but yet on the sell of the property, it hasn't been opened up, and I hope you will consider that as you going to consider the approval of zoning.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, Trevor.
Anyone else? If not, then I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Similarly, I'll open it up for any overall comments from the council to discuss this thing before we go into the specific points.
I would just like to make a comment. I appreciate everybody coming because like I mentioned before, there's a lot of times there's not much public involvement. So I appreciate that. Just like all of our neighbors here have mentioned, Robin and Ashley, that they approached the city about purchasing a property. So did General RV. So those had both been residents or interested parties approaching the city. So that was not necessarily done in a public meeting, correct? So I understand your frustration saying that this was all done behind closed doors. However, both of you approached the city individually about this. So the city's in a tough position because when we discuss the purchase or sale of real estate, we can't do it in an open setting because we're stewards over your taxpayer money. So my interpretation is that we need to get the best value for you. And so if we go out and say in a public meeting, hey, we are going to sell this for XYZ, then we're really not doing our residents a service. So we have this kind of tricky situation because we want to discuss all this and have all this as open as possible. And we do that with every item. But I feel like for real estate, and I'm just speaking for me, I don't know if everybody else agrees, but for real estate, it's really hard because we really can't talk about the nitty gritty and all the numbers in an open forum. So I hope everybody understands that. So that's aside. Unfortunately, no, because it makes it really chaotic. So I understand your frustration, though. I understand that. I just want you to know that we are absolutely trying to be as open as possible. So understanding that there was interest from both sides for purchase, where I'm coming from is that we have to decide what is best overall for the city. So this is actually a tough one because having a resident say, well, we're willing to purchase the entire property. Okay, does that benefit the whole city overall? Or does having an amenity that will allow us to gather a lot of tax revenue that is really, really needed in our city, does that benefit the residents overall? So that's what we're weighing here. So this is, I totally see your perspective. I would love for people to be able to have that more property and better enjoy our city. But we sorely need tax revenue, sorely. And I'd be happy to sit down with you so you can see how much we need that. Okay. So that is my comment on there, because this is a hard one. I feel like I want it to be the best for our residents, but best overall for every resident. And if we sell to a small portion of our residents, are we doing a disservice to the rest of our city?
Thank you. Other comments or discussion?
Yeah, I'll follow up. I just took a couple notes with Ashley and Robin's comments. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth, but I do echo a lot of what Councilwoman Petty was saying. So with our General RV approaching us, there was a certain amount of land that they needed in order to make this project work. And as stewards of your guys' tax dollars and everything, we realized the amount of tax revenue that we would be able to get with this particular project. Knowing that not only is it badly needed, but the last thing that we wanted on that property was more housing. And that's all we've been getting is housing, housing, housing. This was something that was available that would be a huge impact to the entire city as a whole, or even just that surrounding area as far as what we'd gotten in the past. But they were still significantly under what they needed for that project to work. And I'm not sure how much I can say, so just stop me if I say too much, but it did mean that they needed to have more options available. With the 10 acres that they got from the Stevens property, it still was not enough. So we as your stewards were trying to find any and other all options available to them. This was not our first choice. So as Angie said, that this was done in closed sessions to protect the amount of value of the numbers that is going around. And it is an unfortunate thing because it does feel a little bit like it is going under the table, but it's really as a way of protecting the values and the prices that are being thrown out, so it doesn't become a bidding war of who can offer the lowest or the highest. The amount of tax revenue that will come with General RV is significant enough that I think most of us were willing to do almost anything that we could to be able to allow that to come through, because it's that significant for our city. And that came with a discussion on a lot of different properties that have a lot of feelings behind them. And we know that as a council. But I think that I was going to ask staff, as far as offers that come in, is there any rules behind offers made on property? Do you have to accept anytime an offer comes in, or can you answer that question for me?
Yeah, I can give you kind of the general parameters on how you make these kinds of decisions. There's a provision in city code, it's 2-1-17. There's also a provision in state code that when property is deemed significant, it has to have the hearing component that we talked about today. That's a procedural requirement, not a valuation requirement. And then city code speaks a little bit to valuation, but what it basically says is that it's the city council that determines what is the value the city would receive for property. The value doesn't have to be the highest bid that you would receive kind of on the open market. In other words, you're not required to market the property to accept bids and to accept the highest bid for the property. You can make a more qualitative determination, and it's your determination to make. The way it's phrased in the city code is that you can entertain a trade that will benefit the city, the sale of which will realize significant financial benefits to the city, or the disposal of which is otherwise in the public interest. And the way I understand the calculation the city council is taking up right now is looking at this not just as a transaction of what are we going to get for this property as a sale of the property, but to what use will the property be put that will generate the greatest benefit, both short and long term, for the residents of the city. And you are allowed to consider those kinds of things when making your decision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just one quick comment, because I don't need to take more time, but when the offer was talked to this, our city manager, how long ago that was, about the willingness to purchase property, it was discussed to the city council members. It wasn't just thrown by the wayside by the city manager. It was brought to the city council in a closed session as part of this discussion. We'd have had that a closed session if you made an offer or anybody makes an offer. That is what a closed session is, about a discussion on a sale of real property. So it was talked about in one of those closed sessions. So it was discussed and the decision was made.
Bill, you have anything you want to? I'll just add a couple comments as well. I understand when I first moved in, I had property behind my house that was wide open fields. And the city, again, looked at the long-term thing, and I couldn't afford to buy everything. Neither could everybody else on our street buy it. So I understand the frustration. I understand the desire to get more.
I don't think you understand our frustration.
I may not, but yeah, it's the long-term aspect is, as has been mentioned, the financial benefit to the city is much better going with the commercial aspect than housing aspect, or
just
allowing residents to get more. So
We do. It's the easement.
And the other comment I'd make is, again, it was an error in the noticing. And so today seems like it's already done. We wanted to hear your input, the public's input. That's why I have the public hearing. The mistake was made. It was backed up. We had to, take it off the table and reopen it to consider, it the proper way and proper manner. And so we appreciate the input that we've heard tonight, and that hopefully will be weighed upon as we continue on with our discussions.
I just wanted to add one last thought. I don't know that I got to complete, but I just want to stress that our general RV was not going to come without additional land. That was that. If we could not find them additional land, they weren't coming. That was the premise that we were pushed up against. So I think that's important to consider as well. They weren't going to take just the 10 acres of Stevens property. They could not get more. They weren't going to come. So we did have to make that consideration as well.
Any other open comment? Otherwise, we'll move to item 11. Resolution 2344, declaring a portion of city-owned property at 104 East South Weaver Drive as surplus.
I make a motion, we approve resolution 23-44, declaring a portion of city-owned real property at 104 East South Weaver Drive as surplus.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. I'll have a roll call vote starting with Councilman Dills.
Aye.
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 Resolution passes. Move to item 12, the offer to purchase 5.3 acres, 3 acres of real property at 104 East South Weaver Drive.
I'll make a motion to approve offer to purchase 5.33 acres of real property at 104 East South Weaver Drive.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to item 13, resolution 2345, the cancellation of the 2023 municipal election and declaring each unopposed candidate as elected. Dave, you want to discuss that?
I don't have any discussion.
So the situation of our 3 candidates being unopposed, the proposal is for them to be declared candidates and elected. Any discussion on
Are you sure you want to still do
that?
it? I'm questioning myself right now, just so you know.
You have an election, you can still run. Is that what you're thinking?
Maybe I
The
can
other
run,
way.
get someone to run against me.
I did actually do a little bit of research on this, and I guess state law changed in 2011. And the first year they did it, 38 cities, smaller cities, all of them, only had 3 people basically running for, the 3 open positions. Small towns, we don't get the necessary people. And when you consider the cost to have Davis County run an election for us, which I think is ridiculous. I just can't compare the two, as long as those that are running don't have any problem with me being able to give them a hard time about saying, well, you weren't elected.
I don't think you give them the option.
Well, you'll get a 5-vote election tonight, or 5 votes to decide whether or not you can be elected. All right. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution 23-45, canceling the 2023 municipal election and declaring each unopposed candidate elected.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Deals.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay.
Well, I can't do that with myself.
4 votes and 1 abstention. Thank you very much. All right. We'll turn now to any new business. Anybody have new business to bring up tonight?
Can we talk about you, city council?
Yes, please.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so a quick recap for anyone who's not aware, the youth city council term starts the beginning of September, and we only have one with the vacancy of Councilwoman Alberts. We're trying to decide what to do, how to make that the logistics of allowing that to proceed, because the youth city council does provide a lot of services for our city. They help with Breakfast with Santa, they help with Halloween, they help with Easter and movie in the park. So any discussion on how we proceed?
And Angie sent us all an email about exactly what she just said. And I didn't respond because I really didn't have a response, because I personally don't have a solution to it. I know I've said this before, there's no way I could add that to my schedule and of doing what the demand is for that. The question is do we think we can find someone in the city to volunteer to head that with the city council as backup or not? I don't think it's something that we want to throw all on staff to maintain. I know there's different opinions probably with staff on how that's run. I still think it's very important for the kids to do that and learn city government and how that works. But I don't know how we make it go forward. and successfully with the time commitment. And you two can speak to that better than I can.
Yeah, Angie and I have been bouncing quite a few ideas back and forth. None of them have really stuck terribly strong. I do feel, gosh, it really sucks to work so hard to build something and then watch it unravel as you walk away from it. But I feel that without those, I mean, even though it was only 9 or 10 kids, without them, I don't know how to fiscally responsibly do these events and have them become successful. They were integral into making all of the behind the scenes work possible. My only thought that I had was to create perhaps like a volunteer list or like a type of YCC that's not like an officially sworn in YCC that, you know, they can come put their name in and they can be a part of whatever city events we're doing. It will require at least a council member to be over that to the degree that they're able to communicate with them prior to. And I just don't know if that's a feasible request either. But that's really been the only one that I have felt that without increasing that events budget, I'm not sure how to make it work without those numbers. Shaylee's awesome, but she's just one person, so
Right. And if you've ever had to fill 6,000 Easter eggs,
it takes a lot.
it takes a lot of people.
Well, and as I was reading through and trying to figure out if there could be any other solutions, I thought, of course, of, well, could this be a public endeavor, sort of like the Country Fair Days that had sponsorship from the city? I do wonder if we put it out onto something like that, if we would even have the kids that want to do it. My daughter did it, she enjoyed it. But at the same time, we've seen the numbers or the excitement kind of drop down between that or from that. We've seen that, especially from the boys' side, they've got Game Boys now. So I don't know if there is an answer that would allow it to survive. And I do hate saying that, but
Are you talking about the council or the events?
the council and because the council of the events. The events will have to take more manpower, obviously. And that would have to be taken into account. You know, we've talked about how we'd have to change things to make those things happen. If those things are important to the city, they would step up and get their kids involved, or they would get involved. It doesn't have to be just the youth council that does it. We could have, like many other cities, they have events and activities committees that the public joins in on. I don't know if they get much more support than what y'all have gotten at different times, but I do know it's been a struggle for a couple of years now. And I want to thank the people that have been involved, and definitely you two for putting so much time, effort into it. But it's also a different world than when we first started with this. Just some thoughts.
So do the youth have any ideas?
We haven't even approached with them with it, where their term ended at the end of August. So their last activity was the Country Fair Days, and normally we would open it up in September, and with all these changes taking place, we didn't open it, so.
Yeah,
It
just
wasn't
wondering
discussed with
if
them.
they might have any ideas of, you know, obviously it's been ideal with the two of you working with them and whatnot. You know, we've discussed having a member of the council with city volunteer or having city volunteers. I mean, all those would be great if we have people that are willing to do it. The hard part is committing to that before we know we have people to do it.
And that's why I didn't open it up. I know that was the direction of the council, but I just didn't feel like it was fair to those kids or their parents.
Right.
Or me to say, let's do this and not have an idea how we're gonna make it happen. I was contacted by another, she was former council member, and she is now over their youth city council. So she called me over the weekend when we chatted about some stuff, and she was just thrilled to be involved in it. And I wish she lived in our city. But so I'm looking at this going, okay, you pay, because I know staff brought up, well, if you pay these people, pay them to do this. I don't even know what you pay them. $15 an hour for 3 hours for 8 people is $360. But then we have to plan these events, so that significantly eats our budget. I mean, Easter costs, how much did we pay for Easter? 1,500?
It's like $600 to fill the eggs, and that was before the last couple of years. I think, a citizens committee, I think that's an option to look into. I think the hard thing about that is just knowing if they're gonna show up. So we put out that we're gonna do, breakfast with Santa, for example. This is a perfect example, and all the things that Shaylee brought up in her email about how are we going to do this without all these people behind the scenes? And I know we love it. We love to be out there with the people and serving them and getting to know them, but without all the people behind the scenes, how do we make that work? That was a big one. Breakfast. Those YCC work their tails off on the breakfast. So
I mean, if you just consider how long it takes to set up that whole building and take it down without the cooking.
That's even with using Curtis and his paid staff.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, that's why I think a citizen committee, if you will, could help, because then you're not just limited to a certain age group. Their families can help. We've got a lot of very loyal families around here that, we say we need a volunteer, but especially on some of these kind of events. So I think that there is a way we can do it and get it going. And maybe we need to see what Halloween, the trunk or treat or the breakfast Santa could do if we started asking for volunteers in families and families that would like to participate and help us out. Part of the charm of being a small town.
How do other cities run in city council that have them? I know some have gone away from the youth city council.
I have another municipal client that is having this exact same debate right now. Because it takes a significant amount of council time, and councils are stretched thin with all their other, committee and board assignments on behalf of the city. They elected to provide a nominal stipend to a city volunteer, and then entered into an agreement with that volunteer where they would just have a background check and then be the supervisor of the youth city council activities. And when I say nominal stipend, I mean a few $100s. It really wasn't that much.
And on the other side, Roy makes a place up on the podium for them to send one member of their youth city council to sit and add to the discussion.
we tried. They wouldn't come.
They're scared. They're scary.
It's a little intimidating.
It's supposed to be 2 meetings a year or something?
Yeah. So I just needed to clarify, I am still willing to do this. I just need to know how. I think it's important. They do the day on the hill with our representatives. There's a cost to that. We could do that basically cost free.
If we agree in a majority that we want the youth city council to continue, then I think we need to ask for a city volunteer. And then a city council member helps that out. Whether that be you or that be Wayne or Jeremy. I volunteered them both last meeting. Remember? Just saying.
We can vote. They can't.
I mean, maybe we just move forward to see what type of city volunteers with the stipend.
I mean,
option.
yeah, we can put it
Did you
out.
get-
I mean,
yeah.
Shaylee can put it out. I mean,
And if you
one, it
get,
scares you what, I'll say this in a public meeting, what you may get is, who knows, we may get 10 people to volunteer, then how do you make that decision? But I don't know that we will. So
I think that decision would be easier than any of them we made tonight.
I agree.
Okay.
That's what
I
I'm
would
saying.
put out there as like an activities committee for the city. See what we get. I mean, if we can get 15 individuals, whether those, I mean, Reba started coming and helping when she was like, what, 8?
Yeah.
I mean, kids, sometimes it's those younger siblings that come that are more helpful than the teens. So there is that going for us. And if like, hey, we got 4 events each year. Your time, I wouldn't even offer to pay, honestly, because the budget is already so limited. So I would say, meet a month before the activity with the council member overseeing that, and then the day of. I will say that I think if we could get the council members at each event would be helpful. I know that you guys came to breakfast and the Halloween is great. Maybe not movie night in the park, it runs pretty sufficiently, but the
Yeah.
Easter, I feel like could use a little bit more help at the event. But that's just my 2 cents. That's where I would go. I would start advocating for committees. Or event committee, city committee, whatever. Yeah, I know what I'm trying to say.
I'd agree with that, because if we can't get more than 10 people for the committee, we couldn't get more than 10 people to be on the council, the youth council, so.
And they are getting bigger. I mean, every single one we do, there's more numbers, and of course that contributes to our growth, but it does show that people enjoy doing them, so. I mean, we do have 50 volunteers that make Country Fair Days work, so. Outside of our 3 chairs, 2 chairs, 1 chair.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is let's have city staff open that up and solicit people to help us with a committee.
Maybe look and see what other cities have done that do that. And see what their organization of it is. Heck, we could even see or plagiarize what they've done online to try to advertise it, or see if any of them are doing it and how they're doing
ChatGPT.
it. Yes. Yes, the
From
5 extra large big cake will be.
From a financial perspective, we've got budgeted, I believe, $5,000 for you city council annually. What I hear you say is that almost all of that goes into materials and supplies for the events. So if we're transitioning that into, the idea was thrown out about, not volunteers, about event intern or something for the youth. And we're transitioning that money into personnel rather than supplies and things, then that changes the financial dynamics. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Yes.
Thus, the idea of keep that $5,000 into the events themselves and request volunteer help. That would be under the direction of Shaylee as our event staff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Shaylee and a council member.
And a council member.
Spearhead that.
Yeah.
On this note, the PR committee has a tentative date. I don't know if he's in that email.
I
yet,
can't
but,
do that.
Okay, well, we don't have a tentative date. We'll try again, but
For what?
we're just having a PR meeting
Oh.
about numerous things, but specifically right now at the breakfast, I got the mayor's response.
I could do it Friday. I cannot do it Thursday.
I can.
I
Anyway.
cannot do it Thursday.
Okay.
Santa.
Breakfast with Santa. I don't know, have each of you gotten that email from Julie?
Yeah.
Pending that we cannot get the help that we need behind the scenes to make it run as we have been running it. Do you guys have any thoughts on the other options that were thrown out, or what we
If
should
we don't,
do
if we don't have something put together, my opinion would be is the council can put it on. I mean, I,
But what would you, like, as far as just planning, because we need to start planning for it, what would you guys like to do?
the same.
Still serve breakfast?
That was, I mean, that was the mayor's point is he didn't want to change it. Because a lot of people like it. They like food. They like the tradition of it. I was okay with changing the food. I didn't necessarily care about that, but I think he felt very strongly, and maybe I'm putting words into his mouth.
He felt very strongly. I
He
spoke
did
to
feel
him.
very strongly that we leave it that way.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I think it's a little more work. But I think we can still pull it off, even if we didn't have others to do it.
I just want to note Blair wasn't there last year. He had.
I sent my
Terry.
wife and kids.
Yes.
That's true.
And they-
And she helped a lot on the cooking with me, so.
Yeah.
So I feel like we could do this, like Blair said, the council could do it, and I feel like we could drum up enough family members if we had to.
And you have the people at the rec center helping too. I mean, Curtis is a lot of help, so.
So from a structure standpoint, what I'm hearing is the PR committee essentially will act as the events
Well, not if,
with council and. with
not if they
staff
get us
to-
a committee put together, though. I mean, that doesn't
If
need
we
to.
get enough volunteers, then that planning burden would move over there as well as the event staffing burden. But if we don't get a long list of volunteers, then the PR committee and staff is the planning committee. And you ask for help as needed on the events
For right now,
for right now.
because we have to start planning that now. That's what she's saying, I think.
Yeah, so. What I'm hearing is when the PR sits down to plan breakfast with Santa, we want to. Figure out a way to keep it the exact same as we've been doing. Yeah, okay,
Yes,
Except with some type of shelter from the wind for those of us cooking outside.
right.
yes. We
Yes.
will relocate stoves if we don't have, if we don't do different stoves.
Okay, yes,
Very good.
we'll discuss that, but as far as breakfast and Santa and. Whatever else that we were doing that I can't even think of off the top of my head, yes. Okay. We will figure it out.
Thanks,
Any-
guys.
Any other new business?
I just have one. I sent everyone a picture today. A neighbor up the road from me has taken it upon himself to put a large sign in his front corner yard. Basically begging the drivers to slow down, using the example of his own kids that live on that corner house and how the traffic is just completely out of control. I've brought it up numerous times. I don't know where to go from here. This street is dangerous. It's just straight out dangerous. And I can't go any further. I need the council's help. I need Dave to talk to the lieutenant. I need something. I don't even know where to go. I don't know what to do.
The problem is, Joe, is how you can't force people to obey the law. I mean, you can only do so much, and I don't want anyone to get hurt. But I mean, they sit on 475 and South River Drive all the time, but we still have 475. They're going 50, 60 miles an hour down that road. And it's 30.
Well-
And so then they sit there all the time. So just increase. I don't know the solution to it because we can't, have control of people.
Well, but again, I try to bring up that there's kind of an 80-20 rule on this. That those that speed, 80% of them are going 5 miles over. I mean, they really are. They're not paying attention. They're just trying to get a little bit quicker and it seems to just go real slow. And then you've got the other 10%, especially on our road, that really consider it a challenge to see how fast they can take around that corner just before it goes down the hill.
So
And
what's the solution?
I think that if the police were writing tickets for those high numbers, and that means they would just have to be on the roads, and there's a couple of them, not just 1900 and 2100, but if we had more of that, then the people that are speeding constantly at those high levels, they're going to get enough points that they're going to either have to slow down or lose a license. And I mean, I hate saying that, but that's really the only thing we have. Because I'm not sitting here thinking, when I said zero tolerance, I mean zero tolerance of somebody who is breaking 10 or above, period. And that's my opinion. I don't think somebody going 1 mile over the speed limit needs to get a ticket or a warning or anything like that. Most of that I really think is accident. And those aren't the people I'm even worried about. I'm worried about those that come around that corner just up there at the top. And you know what a corner will do, especially one that swoops into it, it increases your speed. And it has made it to the point where it's just dangerous. And there's kids there every day going to school, coming home from school, crossing the street. And I've seen so many close calls. I don't know the answer, Blair. I really don't. And I would hope that you guys may have some, I don't know, ideas or solutions or something, but I don't know what to do. But we're seeing even the citizens are, going to extremes to try to get everyone else to do it.
So I'll just add to that. My neighbor that's at that corner put a box in the middle of the intersection yesterday with 25 written on all four sides. And everybody slowed down. There's a box in the road. What does it say? And it was interesting. And while people were slowing down, he had his little girls out there saying, "Thank you for driving slow by us." And anyway, this might be one that city staff would contact Sergeant Pope and just say, hit this area for the next few days, just watch it and ticket people that are going fast. We don't want a box in every intersection throughout the entire city in order to get a policeman there, but we do have a resident that is trying to take it into his own hands, and I don't want him to, get frustrated or somebody throwing stuff at him because he's trying to slow people down. But at the same time, it'd be nice to, at least support him by having Sergeant Pope and others there right now while he's trying to do that. And I agree with Joel, after a few more people get, ticketed for going quite fast, then hopefully they'll start slowing down.
I missed last time when Davis County came. Did they update on where they're patrolling? Because I know the time before they talked about being on those roads. Are they still? I know they have because they mentioned it in public safety. They have a specific officer here who is writing tickets like it's candy. And from what I
The numbers were
understood,
higher, but they were, I think they're 30 days, behind, but so I think the next set will be even higher.
yeah. From what I understood, they were kind of monitoring throughout the city, but they're not, from my understanding, they weren't seeing those ones that are, 15 above. They're seeing a lot that are between 7 and 12. But I know when they came the last time and we talked about your area, they were like, yeah, we're up there. And I don't know if it's a matter of when they're up there, people see them and therefore slow down or what, but.
That's usually the case. I've watched where they park.
After that, if you got an officer there trying to enforce it, but people are seeing it and so therefore slowing down, and then they can't enforce it because they're slowing down, like unless we can make a robot scarecrow sheriff that can hide and keep people down for a little bit. I don't know. I feel like you drive is just, and I don't mean this, I don't know the right words to say, but it's just another street in the city where, Deer Run is another one that Paul could say the exact same thing. And Canyon.
Electronic sign that's been there for over a month and still have people going by.
Yeah, so you got 1900 East that would say the same thing. You've got South River Drive that will say the same thing. You got 470 East that will say the same thing.
People go 55 down my road.
Yeah, Angie's been talking about the slums of Cornea Drive since I came into office.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, this is really frustrating to me because the people speeding in South River, live in South Weaver. It's not like we have outside traffic coming here, but like, I don't know how far can you go before it's like, I mean, I feel like we gave 475 everything we got. They have flashing signs, they have the road painted, they have this, they have extra patrols. They're still speeding.
Well, and that's the same in Old Maple Farms, and we did everything we possibly
Yes.
can, and every ticket they're writing was to people who lived right there in that
And
neighborhood.
it still doesn't stop them.
And it's still happening. I mean,
So
there
I'm
are
not sure
some
the answer.
drive-throughs to the soccer complex, a few here and there, but the majority of them, there's like 80-something% are people who live in that.
They weren't happy
Right
with that
there.
data. They didn't even believe it, but.
Well, and that's why I mentioned bringing in Poper, talking to the lieutenant and seeing what solutions they have. Because I would think they would be able to go, you know, what, here's one of the things that you can do. Because if not, I mean, we've watched Salt Lake where they've gone to another extreme and just said, okay, well, speed limit's now 20 throughout all neighborhoods. And it's means that if you're going higher, you get boosted into a higher ticket thing that gets reported onto your insurance. And that was the whole reason for it. So I know everybody's dealing with it. But it's one of those that I don't think we can just throw up our hands or just say,
No,
it's, you know, I think we've got to figure something out.
I don't
No,
think
it's-
so, but I don't think that ticketing the crap out of our residents is the solution either.
Well, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, you know.
Well,
let's
but
go and
you-
attack,
I
but
know, but you're saying ticket, like,
to those that are going to extreme, yeah, if you're doubling the speed limit in a truck.
But I don't have an issue, because I totally agree. If you got somebody that's going, 50 and a 25,
Yeah,
but they're not finding, they're not seeing. And that's where, well, now what we do, I mean, other than.
is that where we have more time that they have to be there?
So-
I don't
So-
know. I don't know.
no,
Goal in this thing is they don't use the LiDAR. They do. LiDAR is one, like the old radar guns, but it's more accurate. They only have their radar guns going the length of the vehicle, either back or front.
Well, I think also there's some, because Sergeant Pope did say that he has sat there and watched on Deer Run and these other roads that people are like, they're going 50, and he'll be like, they're going 35. We think that they're going really fast, because it feels fast, but when he actually sits there and just monitors them and doesn't pull anyone over, he says the data isn't actually showing that their speeding is as high as what people are complaining they are.
so how about we do this though? How about so that because we could debate this for the next hour.
Keep going.
I know you do. I don't. Why don't we have Dave make that recommendation to make extra round of U Drive in the next week, and we put it on our agenda for the public safety. And discuss what they think are other options.
Can you just have them
and
get
data.
get data for us? On that, what they find out, why they're up there monitoring,
Yeah.
how many hours they're up there, what times of the days. how
And
fast
most of
people
the
are
time
going,
Sergeant
how
Pope is
often.
listening to these, so we'll know if we.
Yeah, I can have a very specific conversation about, we need some data gathering as well as enforcement. And just eyes on some of these specific target areas that we brought up in the past, but still have a concern to the point that neighbors are even trying to, do things
Yes.
to slow people.
I think that would be, one, it's, the neighbors are taking it in their hands. I think it needs to be recognized, so.
So just one question on our radar signs, whatever. Did they give us a tally or is it just an
The
instantaneous?
cart, the wagons do, or what do you want to call them? The mobile ones give us the feedback back, yes.
So how often do we look at that and say, yeah, the 3,000 cars that went by here, 20 were going over 40 miles per hour?
Just when these types of conversations come up, it's not a regular thing, and that's probably on me. to
And I
look
think-
at it more frequently.
and I think the
But
new
will
one
say
actually goes
every
to a-
time I have looked at them, the data kind of supports what Haley's saying, is that you may have two cars that are over, 15 miles an hour, but everything else is really within that same speed.
Is that staff intensive to review those reports or to get those? Is it,
It's just
pretty
a
simple?
software
Okay.
login for the signs that
Yeah.
you log in and look at.
can we have that be part of our update once a month?
Like,
Is it remote or do you
I
have to
don't
pull it off the machine?
I think it would be helpful though.
It's the
It's
new,
all
the new
remote.
one is remote completely.
It would be helpful to even just have that and be like, disseminate if that really is what the data is showing. We don't want people speeding, and like Bush said, nobody wants people hurt, but it would be nice to have that data.
Yeah, absolutely. I can gather that data and make sure the full council is aware of it.
Or quarterly or
Or
whatever.
Yeah, just so we have an
Maybe every
email
time
or,
Davis County comes, we can just have that side by side data.
Yeah.
To review as well, just so we know.
It may, just spitballing, but it might be the type of thing that'd be easy to include in a monthly report as well, if I could just.
Yeah.
generate
Absolutely.
That was what I
the
was, yeah.
software And then include that with all of our monthly reports. Highlight that, I think, as its own
Mhm.
email rather than what I've been doing before, just say, here's the monthly reports and we can
Perfect.
include that. I'll look into options for that and.
Thank you.
Make sure that data is available to the council. Yeah.
That's a good job from Mark Lars to add it to his report.
Okay, thank you. Let's go with council reports, starting with Joe.
Nothing new to report. We're keeping going with the parks plan, trying to get everything all set up for our new parks manager to come in, and we're excited to have some type of leadership over there that's going to be looking just at the parks and what we can do to manage them. We did, I don't know if I can, or if I should say this, but we've once again lost another member of our crew that takes care of our parks. That emptied us out. We've got some new people that are coming on, but it really does, it's really impacting us, losing all of the personnel that we have been for other jobs.
I'll just add to that, if it's okay, Joel. We're both admin and finance also, and we're looking at ways to try to improve our competitiveness there. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to bring something to the council and you'll be able to hear how we can take better care of our employees that are doing a great job with the parks. The other thing too is we've got progress being made on the Cherry Farms Park. Yeah. The subcontractor that had agreed to do work on it is finally starting.
Yes.
Will soon be starting on it.
Yes. When do they anticipate that being completed?
Dave, do you have an update on
By the end of the year?
2030.
that?
No, probably by mid-October, we'll have most of that done. There is an element of it that will probably be in terms of material to lay down and let it be there. If we do it right before winter, then there's a chance it won't take the right way. So they're looking at that, but yeah, it's been pretty frustrating to finally get the contractor there. There's some miscommunication and some other issues, but we finally got them as a captive audience, and they'll be here within the next couple of weeks to make that happen.
Awesome.
Can I ask a quick question on parks?
Those two. Go ahead, please.
Please.
I had an email from a resident over by the Canyon Meadows, and they were asking they were asking two things: that they had heard that there was a project going on with moving the dirt over there, and they were curious if the bike track was going away. There's no talk of the bike track going away, correct?
No, we've actually talked just recently that what we want to do now is basically finalize the bike track. There's been a lot of volunteers over there that have helped us and gotten us to this part, but we're now just going to go on and finish it. So we will have, Mark has agreed to go over there like on a weekend, hopefully with that group that has the knowledge of how to do it or what they want. And we're just going to set it out, finish it up and get it done so that we have a finished bike park, and then we can start looking at putting gravel in there and getting some of the weeds out of it. The big dirt hill that's on the other side that came from the marshland is some of the groundwork that we're looking at moving over. So,
Well, that was their other question, as to wetlands. Where were we at on that?
Yeah, it's a matter of us essentially redelineating or approaching the Army Corps to have them redelineate and check what the current conditions are.
'Cause we've hit our
completed
2
all
years,
of
right?
Yeah, we completed all of the requirements for restoring it and watering it and all of that. And we stopped watering that beginning of the summer, right? And so now it's just natural hydrology taking its course out there. And it's a matter of us, when we pull the trigger to go through that process of having a consultant come and redelineate that and submitting it to the Army Corps.
And the reason I asked is, do we not want to do that before weather?
Well, let me
Or
add,
do we want to
and
wait?
if I can, there was a recent Supreme Court ruling that addresses this to some degree. I don't know exactly where that lands, but it's likely to be more in the city's favor. So whether or not we need to go through the full delineation process that we had originally anticipated, I think is still potentially in question. It may just be that they would be deemed non-regulatory. So all I'm saying is we need to settle that first before we hire a consultant to come in and go through that process.
Absolutely.
And we've had rumors over there that people have already heard that. So what do we have to do to get to that point where we can understand it?
I need to do some more research to find out what it really means and how it would apply to us.
Okay, thank you.
But he's really busy with a public works building.
I would suggest that that's
So-
not the highest priority.
No, it's not.
But it is something. that
It's
we
still
should put on the
important,
List and
but-
make happen as soon as we can.
Thank you.
My question was, I don't know where we sit with the budget, so just addressing the lights by the basketball court. We have the conduit in there. So, when you get $100,000 of free money. And I say free, meaning not allocated money.
Is this another one of those projects you were working on?
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it.
we put the conduit in there so that at some future point, we could use impact fee to put the lights in, and so people could enjoy the basketball courts at night. Just like the pickleball.
Do we have an
I will
estimated
check.
cost on that? What are we looking at? Do you know?
I don't recall a specific
I
number.
keep thinking 76,000, but I can't remember if that was just for the conduits or if
No.
that was for the fixtures.
I couldn't tell you how much we're looking
I
at.
don't know, it was
I
a
don't
couple
think-
years ago.
I don't think it's that much for lights.
Oh.
Sorry, Angie, I'll look into that as soon as I
Thanks.
can get Brandon to kind
Okay.
of get up to date.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you, Parks Committee.
Anything else, Joe?
No, thank you.
Haley?
So PR meeting is pending soon. Code committee, I missed our last meeting and today's meeting got canceled because the mayor's out and Trevor is out. So what are we doing? How was the last meeting? Did you report on it?
I think we did.
Oh, okay.
A lot of-
Never mind then.
A lot of it was just really finalizing the last bit of detail on the pickups,
The CUPs.
CUPs.
Working on CUPs and working on ADUs.
Yeah.
Acronyms. We love acronyms.
I'm sorry, did you say you're working on the CUPs?
That, if you recall,
It's done.
the CUP work was done, and then we recognized as we were getting ready to go to the planning commission, all of the additional code sections that touched. And so Trevor's been doing work to
Oh.
make sure all of the code sections that it touches are involved in that, and we don't just leave that hanging by itself. So he's been doing work on that, which got superseded a little bit by the state code needing us to update
ADUs.
Title 11. And so Title 11 has kind of gotten first priority of that. But the last conversation we had at code committee was about accessory dwelling units and what we need to do there based on changes of state code this last legislative session.
That's it.
Okay, just a quick update on the dust situation. I mentioned last time that University of Utah had their sensors out, 2 of them in our community. I met with them as they were presenting their findings. They presented it to me and some state people and others. They are going to redo it. They're going back through it because they had that at a few days where it was high. And some of those days were actually when we had south storms and west storms. They were not aware that we have a landfill and evergreen soil just to the south of us. So that's been delayed until they can also include in their data where the wind's coming from on those days where we saw high spikes in their sensors. So that's not completed yet. As soon as it is, I'll let you know. The Admin Finance Committee, we mentioned, we are working on trying to find a way to retain our employees better. And again, hopefully within a couple weeks, we'll have something to bring to the full council. That's it. Angie.
Thank you. Our Public Works building, we're very excited that we've awarded the proceed for the design to Valley Design. And so I got an update from Dave. Brandon's already working with them and they're getting the design process started and then going to get the site work bid prepared. So they have to do a little bit of design work before we can get that bid out for the site work. So that's where we're at. Full steam ahead. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Claire.
Public safety met last week. We met with Chief Tolman. And we had discussions on the wildlands program. And we're discussing moving forward with, because we've had issues with getting an engine boss for that. We've had discussions with pairing and partnering with Farmington City. And they have an engine boss that they don't have a wildlands project. So we're gonna work that route for the time being while we, and at the same time, we're getting one of our own staff certified as an engine boss. So I think it will move forward. I think it's good. We have not had a big fire year. It has kind of turned to one of the worst case scenarios, but there has not been a lot of calls out for it, which is a great thing. It's not great for a budget on the wildlands, but it's a great thing for people. So it's good and bad. Let's see what other big things. We put new signs up at Park and Ride to tell people that they shouldn't be parking there overnight without permits. We're working on a different permitting, or maybe even a QR code, so they don't have to come down to the city to get a permit, which may make it easier so we know who's there and that the sheriff will know who's there. The other item is we're going to meet, or someone is going to remind, that would be Dave, I believe. Actually, Derek, I think, said he would go down there and remind Highmark of that they were going to change their pickup routing and move that behind, which they have not done. And because it has actually been worse this year. And we now have kids going across the street and back and forth, and we don't want that, obviously. So we are going to ask them if they can implement, as we discussed last year with them, about picking up going around the school and out.
Can I add something to public safety pending on when we meet next? So
You
you
bet.
have it there. The crosswalk that we discussed around like 1900 East. I've been told that there's a group of kids that will cross roughly in that area between 1740 East and 1900 East to go to Highmark. But they have to cross the street to get on the sidewalk that actually follows through all the way down to Highmark, which is on the
North
side of the street.
Mhm.
Anyway, I was driving past today when a girl was trying to cross at the same time as everybody was picking up and taking to school, and it was a little hairy. But they don't have a sidewalk on that side, on the south side of South Weaver Drive for a good section up to the S curves. So they have to cross the street to the north side, ride their bike down, and then make another cross to where Highmark is. So I know that we put crosswalks in that area on the priority list at one point in time. We may want to revisit that.
Brandon was nodding his head about something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we've applied for funding from UDOT for I don't know how many years now to build the sidewalk on that side.
This year's the year.
But
So far,
and hope,
you-
yeah, yes, yet to be awarded.
Yeah,
So we
she
are
almost,
ready-
she almost got hit today. She
Yeah,
went out and there was two cars, and I think part of it is the sun, where the sun is at that point in time. And she came out and she had to hurry and dart right back in. She almost got hit.
from my perspective, that area right there and the whole drop off and pick up, and people should not be parking on the north side and letting their kids cross the street. But the fact that they do, I mean, that worries me more than just about anything else.
I'm just wondering if we could put a crosswalk around like 1900 East and then another crosswalk around like 2100 East, because you do have kids that are riding the sidewalk down the north side and then crossing again. And until, we, who knows when we're gonna get sidewalks, but we might want to give them some way to cross the street without playing hopper or
Agreed.
Frogger, whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely something that should be, can be discussed more.
Yeah.
So we've also asked UDOT, and Jamie will have to close his ears, to change the speed limit, which they told us no. And this has gone on for years. I mean, I would be in favor of us just changing the speed limit, and that was even discussed in public safety.
Well, we discussed it in a public meeting before.
And we have, I
Just
mean,
for that interim
just,
or the whole
Change
length
the
of South
signs
Weaver
out.
Drive.
Just go buy new signs and put them up.
I mean, I just don't, I hope UDOT's listening. I really do.
They're not.
Because it's, they're not, no one else is. So, but I mean, it just, I've said this 1,000 times, that their philosophy is just backwards. And we're gonna regret the day that speed limit
would be
doesn't slow
awful.
down.
Yeah.
It's not about what's comfort driving,
Yeah,
not once, but someone is going to get hurt there, and it's gonna be one of those kids.
yeah, yeah, it was a close call today. It was kind of sickening to watch, so. That's a priority, I think, for public safety, whenever you shall meet again.
I did want to mention, though, we did ask the email I sent out about the hot crossing.
Oh,
Pope, Sergeant Pope is going to be documenting data for us so we can discuss getting a hawk crossing over at, I was gonna say Skymark, that's not it.
Highmark.
Highmark. Thank you.
So one of the things brought up on that is, and the sheriff pointed it out, Derek pointed it out, it's a UDOT road. But then we put and then I'm going back against me just changing the sign speed limit, but if we put in that crosswalk. And we assume the liability. Where it's a UDOT road. And so there is a fine line to walk with those crossings.
Yeah,
And it was discussed on when that happens and when we. And because it's not, I mean, it's technically not a school zone, but it's a school zone.
right.
And it is where,
Why we landed on going back on the
Mhm.
market about using the river.
yes,
It's kind of just, we're documenting that we have made our concerns known about this area with everybody that we've been able to document it with. In hopes that that data will come back and help us with, and it's like, seriously, something must be done. And I think the Paul property will do that. I don't know how we're gonna keep it as it is without Paul property gets developed.
I think we all prefer to not have anybody crossing South Weaver Drive at Highmark, but the fact that people are is concerning, and we've got to look at everything we can do to help make that a safer place.
and so does that mean we need to. Bang on UDOT's door again?
Happy to.
Didn't the last time they did the speed study occur when school was out?
They did it
They
over
did
the app, and they did, well. Or it's an average of the 24-hour period. And it's of what people felt comfortable going.
And yeah, I think it was in the
And-
summer when there was.
And I don't remember it
Around
being
here.
with school in, that's the difference.
We have to come back and be like, okay, but that's not correct.
But they'll still go, I mean, even 45, even if they go 45, that's still too fast. During that school time.
Agreed.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, they may still feel comfortable going it. but
I don't feel
it's-
comfortable.
Well, what's the
with
option
55.
of, we have the signs that flash 20 miles per hour. Down South Weaver Drive, can't we get signs like that whenever it's school time to just speed limit to something slower?
That's if,
That's,
that would be changing it to a school zone type speed, but
right.
they don't let us do that.
Well, but those are for actual specific crossings, right?
So it's only for a crossing, right?
For the
Yeah,
crossing.
zone
It's
is
not
a
just slow down in general.
crossing,
gotcha.
Not just for school.
I need the exercise. So if we know whether they're gonna come out and put that little strip down that says how many cars are going, I can do my jumping jacks there all day long.
Just go slow too.
I think that's the
all
only way
had.
I
Sorry.
can go.
I'm done.
No, that's good. Okay, staff, any items?
All the items that have been brought up as far as committee reports, right? Parks Committee, Public Works working on staffing issues. There's been a lot of time in that. We've been working with, we had a meeting today with Zion's Public Finance and our bond counsel to go over what's called the due diligence for the preliminary official statement. If we were to go out to market in order to sell our bonds, then we have to have this official statement of the city's position. And so we met and looked at that. That will be coming forward to the city council in a couple of weeks to officially adopt and say this is the city's document, although we're getting help preparing it from financial advisors. And we'll have a discussion then about whether or not we really want to do market versus direct placement and kind of the trade-offs there. You get a lower rate by having a market placement because there's competitive bid essentially. However, it locks you into that interest rate for a longer period of time. With a direct placement, you can have some flexibility as far as when to refinance if that's an option that you want to maintain. So it may be a little bit higher rate at the beginning, but you maintain that option of refinancing sooner. So those are the trade-offs that we're looking at. Both options are on the table. We'll bring that forward in a couple of weeks for the council to officially look at. But send an email as far as the bond amount that we're estimating at this point. We're refining that as we go and getting pretty close. It feels like in terms of the total project cost, but if there's any questions on that, you can always ask me, but that's what the main work has been recently.
I like the
Well, there-
latest numbers much better than the previous numbers we were getting.
So will it actually come to the council to vote on whether or not we're spending that money on that project? Because right now I hear everything else going on already in motion that we're spending the $9-10 million on it. And I don't want to do that. So I'm wondering when it's going to come here so that I can say no and try to convince desperately that we are overspending. So
Yes,
I
in 2
keep
weeks,
wondering
the city
why all of
council
these.
will have a conversation about
Okay.
bond amount.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
We've
those wheels in
we've
motion.
already voted to spend some money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm fine with a couple grand.
It's not a sliver.
It's
not a sliver. It's a big-
sliver of land.
I have one quick question, if I may.
Yes, council.
Thank you. Do we still have any ARPA money left?
Yes, we have $500,000 of ARPA money that.
But it's allocated, right?
Well, it's been
We have to
discussed, but
identify it.
it
It's
has
not
not been
finalized.
officially said, yes,
Okay.
that will go to XYZ.
It's
Um,
not going fast.
I wasn't asking about that one. I was just wondering if we could maybe discuss some of these street signs, speed limit signs to purchase out of that, to put on some of these streets, like a flashing speed limit sign. So,
Splashing.
did I say splashing?
Yep.
A flashing.
It sounded like
speed limit.
I'm fine with either one.
Answer.
Yes.
Okay.
Dust.
Okay.
We can recycle it.
Okay, if public safety can maybe look at that, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, other staff items? Shady, did you have something?
Okay, speaking of events and public safety, we have quite a jam-packed Thursday coming up. Starting at 4, Connext is going to be there with a lot of activities and games and prizes to celebrate their completion of getting into South Weaver City. They'll be there from 4 to 7. There's going to be a ribbon cutting and games and chances to win free months of fiber 4 to 7. And then fire prevention night is the same night at the same park. That starts it goes from 5 to 8 p.m. So we hope to see you there. And then at 6 is our final concert in the park. The band that's coming is called the Heavy Bucket Band. I've been in contact with them and they're really cool. There's a saxophone and everything. So we hope that a lot of people show up for the last concert in the park this year. And we hope to continue it on next year when the summer happens. But super jam-packed, lots of food, lots of activities and games and lots of fun. So we hope to see our residents out there.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Shirley.
you.
Shirley.
This is like a full-on end of summer bash happening in Central Park this Thursday.
All the same
The-
night. Mhm.
Constitution Bowl, was that last Thursday or this Thursday?
Last thing.
How
It
did
was-
that go?
It was last Thursday and about 15 people got to meet Benjamin Franklin. So it
Was it Benjamin Franklin from The Office?
Yeah, I mean, if you count me in a bald cap, Benjamin Franklin from The Office, then yes.
Yeah,
Not quite.
Did
Go
you
watch
get
that.
any questions that were maybe difficult to answer? I mean, it
For one
specifically
team, I hear it was.
Toward Benjamin Franklin.
No,
Oh,
actually,
I thought something was definitely coming your way.
I was waiting for it. I'm not gonna lie, but I was really excited about the TikTok that I made dressed as Benjamin Franklin, but kind of a little relieved that not a lot of people saw it because it was kind of embarrassing, but but no, it was fun. We'll be able to do something again next year for
Awesome.
Founders Month. So
That's awesome. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes, definitely. Anything else from staff? Lisa? Okay, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, hallelujah.